Hey, you fucks. Thanks for, checking out the videos, showing a little bit of support. How about you take it to the next level and show us some love over there on Patreon, huh? Huh? Huh?
Yo, 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 yo. Hello, everybody. What's up on the YouTube? You're going to play Papa Tikyo coming to you live from another ADVJapan channel rant. It sucks. I recorded this already on my motorcycle, and the microphone I didn't realize was not plugged in all the way, and so instead of trying to say, I actually tried filming this twice. And the first time I was super distracted. I was in a new place and I was trying to film stuff, going to meet people. And and then I wasn't able to say what I wanted to say. And then the second time, recorded it, didn't work. And so, it was just the mic wasn't plugged in all the way. So this is the third time doing it. But it's a topic that, I wanted to cover. And, I love the thumbnail for this rant because it's Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee. And I know that they're not Japanese, but I don't know. I was just thinking about the dynamics of being a parent in Asia versus being a parent in America. And I was like, you know what? I want to talk about it. I wanted to and plus I woke up. I barely got any sleep last night, because one of my neighbors stole my fucking newspaper. It's such a stupid reason too. It's I woke up. Look at outside and I'm like, where's my newspaper? And so I got bad sleep last night because I'm like, okay, wait, let's see what happens. And so I got my newspaper today, but I don't know, it's weird. I can't remember if if it was delivered or if somebody took it. I don't think anyone would take it, but it's with these things, you never know. But I was just I was up all night being like, oh my god, I gotta catch the guy in the act. I mean, this is one of the things when you live with either I don't know. This is one of the nice things about living in Kabukicho. It's either you live with people that don't give a fuck, and that could be a whole broad range of ages, And anyway, yeah. So I am a little bit sleep deprived today, but yeah, this is a video of me and my friend Mari after we filmed one of these videos for my for my walk and talk Tokyo videos. And yeah, it's nice because I hadn't been. We're in this restaurant called Ceria, and I haven't been to Ceria in probably a year or two. It's been a long time since I went to Ceria, and I actually like Ceria. I think it's not that bad. It's super cheap and you get so much food. Yeah, so this was it's so funny because I want to do these walk and talk videos for my main channel where it's just I'm interviewing and I'm talking to people from around the world, or not around the world, but it's all different walks of life in Japan, and it could be foreigners, it could be Japanese people. And Mari's interesting because she's into hip hop dancing, and sometimes hip hop dancers, they try, especially Japanese ones, they try to be black, not just dancing, but attitude wise or something. And she's just a very Japanese chick who approaches hip-hop dancing from a very technical perspective, and it's pretty interesting. She looks very hip-hoppy, but she doesn't act hip-hoppy, if that makes sense. But yeah, anyway, I was I need b-roll, and I want more b-roll of me when I'm with these women and stuff for good eye candy and shit. And so I thought I'd film this with you guys, film this for, to use for a rant later. I'm like, you know what, I just filmed this recently. I'm gonna use this in a rant. So, without further ado, though, before I get into it, I just want to say we're at the 4-minute point here. So let me just shout out my stuff. Big thank you to everybody who went over to patreon.com/TKOSam and followed my shit. And, supporting me over there, because I don't make any money off of Google AdSense. I make maybe $10, $20 if I'm lucky a month from Google AdSense, which is still fine. I guess I could order milkshake or something. But yeah, guys, I really appreciate you guys who go over to patreon.com/TKOSam. I got tons of different bonuses there, from blogs to tours to all this different shit, right? So yeah, you guys got to get over there, go over there, do the thing. And yeah, we got all the kinds of hot sex there for you. And for all of you guys who don't want to support on Patreon, any super chats or any kind of like super chats or what is it, super chats or super thanks, the muchos Garcias, very appreciated. And we will apply any of that stuff, any of the any of the donations, whatever you want to call it, any of the support that you guys give me, we'll apply that to the timer at the live stream that we do after each rant. And yeah, we will do a live stream after this rant too. Stay tuned for the very end of this for the link to that live stream. And if you guys, and hello to everybody in the premiere chat. Can I get a hi from everybody? Tell me what time it is where you guys are, and what are you drinking for breakfast? I've got a coffee. I've got a glass jar filled half with ice, and then 80% with coffee and about 20% with just regular milk. And it's great. I love the coffee. I love the coffee flavor. I love the coffee smell or whatever. It's fun. It's good shit. But anyway, yeah, guys. So yeah, thank you so much. And for anybody who doesn't want to, if you don't have any money to blow on your dad, then all you gotta do is just go, just smash that like button and leave a comment. And the question of the day, and I guess the question of the day is like, do you think your parents were good parents? And I'm curious. What you guys think. Were your parents good parents? How do you think you're gonna try to be better than your parents? Let me know in the comments down below. And also, I mean, if you don't want to answer like such a heavy question, just tell me a good memory with your parents, and I'll share one too. So yeah, we'll go. We'll do it and we'll talk about it. And anyway, yep. So and this is the thing I hate, guys. I'm usually not on my phone when I'm with women, but like I was, Mari kept asking me. She's like, she wants help growing her Instagram. And by the way, if you guys are curious about Mari, I'll put her. Just remind me in the comments section. Be like, Dad, what's Mari's Instagram or whatever, or her YouTube, and I'll link it as a reply to that comment for you guys, because. Yeah, she looks all kind of sad and depressed in this video because she's been trying really hard on YouTube and Instagram to grow. And to be fair, she's gotten like 4,000 followers on Instagram, which isn't like, it isn't chump change. It's pretty good, but the real power on Instagram starts happening after 10,000 followers. And so she's just all kind of like sad and like she's like, I'm trying, I don't know what to do. And I told her, I was like, well, you're twerking, like you make twerk videos and you make like hip hop videos, but you're not sexy in any of it. You're like wearing these baggy ass fucking sweatpants, and you're not trying to look sexy for any of this. And like twerking is a sexy dance, so it's like going to fucking like nobody would eat McDonald's if they didn't fucking. Well, I guess now it's a little bit different, right? I guess when we were kids, nobody would eat McDonald's. Like who wants to eat McDonald's unless you go to like the actual like restaurant? You see all those decorations and all the Happy Meals. Like no kids would give a shit about McDonald's unless they had the Happy Meal kind of thing, right? And same thing. It's like twerking is such a stupid fucking thing if people aren't already trying to look sexy and stuff, And there's me drinking my green tea because I didn't want to go get a water. I'm just like, yeah, that's the thing, guys. You always got to carry around a bottle with you. And but anyway, yeah, it's just Mari's like, I want some stuff. But anyway, I don't like to check my phone at all when I'm with people. I really hate that. Like when you're with somebody, I feel like you should give them mostly like 100% or whatever of your fucking attention, right? And so it's just like, yeah, it's just one of those things. And yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to point that out because I don't like that either. Like when I'm with my friends, if somebody's checking their phone the whole time, I'm gonna call them out on it, right? But most of the time, if people see you not doing it, like the thing is that if I check my phone, I try to make it very quick, But anyway, she wanted me to help her and stuff, so I'm checking my phone constantly, trying to look at these examples that she's talking about. And yeah. Anyway, she's going to get us water right now. And yeah, I love going to Ceria, dude. I will get I get the pizza and I get the fucking the chicken wings. And what did we get? We got salad, chicken wings. She got some fried potatoes or whatever. And I love that. Like, this is the only place that I know of where you can get buffalo wings. And they're not really buffalo wings, but they're close. It's like Asia, right? Like, you can't fucking Like, if you want the real deal, you can go find it, but it's not going to be convenient. Like, Ceria is everywhere, and it's all, like, you know, so, you know, if you want a pizza, if you want, like, you know, the pizza's not even that good either, but, I mean, you know, for the price, it's fine, right? Like, we got this meal with, like, over, like, I think, what was it, maybe, like, 8, or not 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, maybe 5 to 6 food items, and it was, like, $16. It was nothing. It was so good. And anyway, yeah, Mari didn't eat that much though because she had a lesson after that. She's a hip hop dance teacher, and so she's like, yeah, I don't want to get too full before I dance. I'm like, yeah, I get that. I was like, but I'm still gonna order food for myself. So I got her the salad and the potatoes, and I got the chicken wings and the pizza. Hell yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's just like, I wanted to record this topic at home because I feel like it's not that there's a shit ton of ground to cover with this, but I wanted to be clear, at least as clear and precise as I could be when it came to this, because it's just like, you know, in Japan, when it comes to parenting, I mean, I guess maybe it's the same in America, right? But like, there's two schools of thought. It's like they either really care about their kids' education, or they're just kind of like, yeah, whatever, it's fine, you know, like, let them go through school and then they can figure out what they want to do or whatever. And you get a mix of both, right? And so, I don't know. It's, I guess in America, maybe it's the same too, right? But in Japan, they really, really like, for example, I teach kids on Saturday, right? And most of these kids are, like, I go through batches of kids because what they do is they usually join my class around when they're in first grade. And then they stay in my class until about their 4th grade, and then their parents want them to go to a private school, a private junior high school and a private high school. So from 4th grade, they quit my class and they start joining Juku, which is cram school, in order to prepare for their entrance exam for middle school. And so, like, you know, and then like once they do that, then once they go to middle school, about the 2nd year into middle school, they start preparing for their high school entrance exam, and then, you know, the same on, you know, rinse, lather, repeat kind of thing, right? And so, I don't know, it's like I've had things in the past where, like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but sex is great. I love sex. Sex is awesome, but I don't know, man. Like, I'm one of those people that's like, I really enjoy the talks after sex. And, you know, some dudes, they just, like, roll over and they pass out or whatever, and that's fine. I mean, I do that too, but, when I'm not totally, like, I remember I had one girlfriend that would always come over. She was an office worker, and she worked very close to my house, and so sometimes during the week, she would just stop by. I mean, like, we were pretty close, so she had a key to my place, and she would just stop by, and she'd be in her work clothing, and she brought, like, in her little bag, like, her suit for the next day or whatever, right? Like, she would always have something, like, in her locker at work, which I didn't even know at offices people have lockers. I guess it's normal in Japan, but she would bring her extra outfit for, like, if she's like, oh, I'm gonna spend the night at Sam's. So she'd bring that over, and, like, you know, she'd take a shower, and, like, we would fuck, and then, like, immediately, like, kind of pass out, you know? But on the weekends and stuff, when we had more free time, we would have, like, these really nice, in-depth conversations. And just about random shit, you know? And like, one of the conversations that we had is, like, if we had kids, what kind of, you know, would we send them to cram school? Would we not send them to cram school? Like, what kind of environment or what kind of expectations do we want to give them? And I remember her being like, I don't want to force our kids to study. I just want them to have fun. Or at least, like, you know, I don't want them to emphasize studying over fun and experience. And I was like, yeah, but do you ever want to live in America or something? She's like, no. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, like, for me, I'm very much of the mindset that it's experience over education, right? Like, experience over learning, right? But at the same time, this is Japan. And if you're planning on not leaving Japan, you got to think about how are people going to thrive in Japan. And, like, of course, school doesn't mean everything. It's not the end all be all, right? But if you're having them compete with other Japanese people, the good thing about private school is that most of the people that go to private school have good jobs afterward. So even if your kid doesn't want to go into that field, they'll have tons of connections of people that did. So like I remember, I told one of my students who was like 8th grade, she came back from America, and she was in public school, and she loved it. She made a lot of good friends, and her parents were like, "Nah, we want her to go to a private university," so they moved her to a private school. And she's like, "I don't understand why my parents moved me here. I have the same amount of kids in my class, so the teacher doesn't give me any extra special attention to help me." And she's like, the material is roughly, it's like, it looks different, but it's roughly the same. And she's like, "Why the fuck are my parents paying for me to go to this school?" And I was like, dude, like, they're not sending you to go to the private school to get a better education. I mean, they hope so, and hopefully you do, but they're doing it so you mingle and you shake hands with people that are like other rich kids, like other people who are connected, their kids, so when you guys grow up, you'll have that kind of connection. And the student was like, "Oh, okay, I get it," And I was like, "Well, try to get an extra quality education while you can, while you're there," kind of thing. But yeah, it's just like I remember that was like one of the conversations I had with my girlfriend at that time. Around that time, I was just like, like, why is that? What? Because, like, I understand JUCO costs a lot of money, cram school costs a lot of money. And it's like, I remember I asked one of my Japanese teachers that I worked with the first year here, I couldn't understand why they need JUCO. Because it's like, why do you need cram school if the kids are already going to school and school is quite rigorous anyway? And the teacher told me, he's like, well, at the school, he's like, I'll put it bluntly, he's like, at the school they learn to be Japanese. They learn, like, the manners and social expectations of being a Japanese person. And at JUCO, they learn the actual, like, I wouldn't say applicable knowledge, but like, education, like academic knowledge or whatever to pass or whatever. And yeah, it's good. Yeah, so anyway, I don't know. But yeah, it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, there is such a thing as too much schooling, right? And I think that, like, when a kid spends more time outside of the house without their parents, and then they're just obligated. I mean, like, in Japan, they kind of have a good system, or at least, like, they have an expectation of what the system entails, right? So that way, like, the kids aren't completely surprised when it's like, "Oh, what do your parents do?" Or like, what do you do? "Oh, I go to school, and then after school, I either go to swim class, or I go to ballet class, or I go to JUCO and I learn more about math or Japanese or some shit, And yeah, it's just like, so the expectation is that, like, they're gonna go there, and hopefully, like, most of these kids, when they join places like that, they're joining it because their friends join too. So at least it's like an excuse for them to hang out with their friends and still be productive. Kind of like my buddy Jim and I. Whenever we hang out, like, we don't really, like, we have some nights where we hang out, but we always feel guilty just by hanging out. Like, we need to make some content, or we need to be brainstorming. Like, we got to be thinking about stuff. Like, time is money kind of thing. And yeah, it's just like, for me, I know this one guy who he's like the best dad ever, and it sucks because he's divorced now. He's got 3 kids, and he's been in Japan longer than me. And I don't know, I won't get too specific. So I mean, nobody knows who the fuck I'm talking about half the time with these videos. But my buddy, I used to work with him, and he was an ALT, and but he's a professional writer. Like, he's published books and shit, and he makes money and royalties off of that. So, he's one of those guys where he was an English teacher, but the whole time he had been releasing books, and so he was making, like, good money. I mean, not fuck you money, but, like, good money enough that it's like, oh, like, he could have a really low-hanging fruit, easy labor job like an ALT, while still making money thanks to, having time to write and everything. And it was cool because, like, he would be an ALT and he'd teach, like, half the day, and then the other half of the day he's, like, still at school, and then he would just be writing on his book on the laptop. And then afterwards, his school got off at the same time that his kids were like getting out of school, and so he just, his wife was just a salary woman, like she was working as a translator, and so he would she's working late nights because corporate shit, and so he would go and pick up the kids, like he'd go pick up the kid at daycare and pick up the 2 other kids from elementary school, and he'd just take them all to the park. Like every day was an adventure, and he used to post all this stuff on Facebook. It's just like he'll take them to the park, he'll take them to what is it? Like he would run all the errands, like, because he was making the lower salary, right? Technically, at least from his one job. And so like he would go out, and take the kids to arcades, take them to go see a movie. And I think, I think ultimately his wife and him divorced because she felt not jealous, but she didn't feel appreciated. Like she's like, he's putting so much effort into the kids. It's so funny because it's usually the opposite with guys in Japan. It's like usually the women are putting too much effort with the kids, and like the guys don't feel appreciated. And his wife felt the opposite way, right? His wife was like, oh, he's not spending enough time with me. He's spending too much with the kids. Meh. And I mean, like it's a balance. It's a balancing act, right? It's tough, but anyway, she was just like. His wife was just like, she's like, I want to get a divorce. And he's like, well, okay, I guess that's if you want. And then she's like, what? Why didn't you fight for this? He's like, I'm just trying to, he's like, I'm taking your lead, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, the whole point is that like, up until that point, he was a really good dad, I don't know about good husband, but he was definitely a good dad. And he was always there for his kids. And I've met his kids, and they're very well adjusted. They have confidence. They know that their dad's awesome. They know that they love their dad and that they can talk to their dad whenever they want. And his daughter, like all of his kids are like, they're in high school. His daughter just graduated college last year, and it's like they love the shit out of him, and they come to talk to him. They come to, like, they always like, even though he's divorced, they're always chatting with him and stuff, and they know that they can talk to him whenever. And it's nice because at least the kids, before the divorce, they became fully bilingual and stuff. And it's funny because I don't know if my buddy, I won't say his name, but my buddy in Saitama, if you're watching this, you know who you are. One of my friends in Saitama, he's got 3 boys. 3 very, very, very Genki boys. And they're just super ADHD, hyper. But I mean, they're boys, right? And he's got 3 of them. And I know that it's so funny because, like, sometimes guys, they want the boys, right? Like, they want a son. And so, like, if they have daughters, they keep trying to have kids until they have a son, right? And so his wife was like, I want a daughter. And it's like 3 boys later. She's like, okay, I don't care anymore. Like, we're not having a daughter. It's fine. And but his kids spend most of the time at Japanese school. And they spend most of the time with their mom, so they don't actually speak English that well, or barely any. And my buddy barely speaks Japanese either. Like, his wife speaks English, but she doesn't speak English to the kids. And so, his kids are super hyper. They're super. I mean, individually they're calm, but when they're together, it's just like bobcats on booze kind of thing. And my friend, it's just like he doesn't even bother to discipline him. He's just like, fuck it. Like, I've called him sometimes, and they're just running around the house, and I'm like, aren't you gonna do anything? He's like, nah, dude. He's like, they're fucking crazy. He's like, yeah, they're boys. Like, you just gotta let them drain that energy out. And he's like, I was like, they're fighting. And he's like, yeah, man, you just gotta, like, he's like, unless they get really badly hurt, like, you just gotta let them fight it out, like, fuck it. Like, boys have aggression, they just gotta get it out. And I'm like, I guess that makes sense. But, these are the kind of boys where they couldn't sit still in class, kind of thing, right? Yeah, hold on a second. But I mean, the whole point I'm getting at is that, like, in Asia, thanks to maybe, or at least in Japan, right? Because I can't speak for other countries, but they're all kind of similar in a way. But like in Asia, the kids have an expectation, thanks to either watching TV or their friends or school, that it's like, I'm going to spend a majority of my time out of the house and not with my parents. But when I do, it's either going to be super chill, relaxed, like we're watching TV together, or we're going to go out and do stuff. And I don't know. I mean, like, I'm curious, how many of you guys actually have kids? that watch me. And if you guys do have kids, how often do you guys go out to do stuff with your kids? Like, I mean, like, go on, like, maybe a road trip, or go to fucking, like, Disneyland, or like, just take them to the park, or, I don't know, like, because there's, like, big trips, right? There's big trips, like, we're gonna go see the grandparents, or, like, we're gonna go to Disneyland. But then there's small trips, like, we're gonna go to the park and play, or we're gonna go and do something, blah, 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 blah. Like, you know, like, is there's, like, camping where you have to prepare a bunch of shit, or, like, road trip where you gotta prepare all the sandwiches and the cooler and blah, 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 blah. And then there's, like, and then there's just, like, you know, oh, we're gonna go to the park, or we're gonna go see my friend or something, you know, like, we're gonna go to your friend's house or something like that, right? And so, yeah, you know, it's like, how often do you take your kids out? And, like, if you take them out not so often, why? Because, like, I know that there's a money factor, like, money and time, right? It's like, if only I had more money, or if only I had more time, right? And, like, I have another friend that is, that's, like, in, I don't know. I mean, like, there's two schools of thought, right? But, I mean, I guess the whole point is, though, is that, like, you know, you want to be there for your kids, but when they're teenagers, like, they have their own lives, you know, like, they have their own lives, and you got to let them live their lives. You got to let them have that sense of independence, right? And you got to let them fucking, like, live, you know, like, you got to let them try to find themselves and shit, and you can't be too much in their lives, you know? And that really sucks, but hopefully if you spend that quality time when they were younger, they'll really appreciate spending that time with you and having fun, right? And I remember when I would be a kid and stuff, like sometimes my parents would be like, okay, like, we're gonna go do this thing, and I'd be like, I don't want to do it, but it's just because, like, I don't know, they built it up as this big fucking thing, and I'm like, dude, I want to just chill today, like, I wanted to stay home and play video games, and then like, I'd ruin, like, I was such a little shit when I think back on it, because it's like, I'd be like, I'm not going, like, fuck you, I don't want to go. And then it's just like my parents would go, and then, like, I'm stuck at home and I can't play video games. I'm just stuck being bored because I was being too prideful and just, like, angry. Because it's not so much that, like, I didn't want to go. It's just like I didn't have any say on where we're going. Like, we didn't go to any places that I wanted to go, you know? It's like, oh, we're gonna go to like a petting zoo today, and I'm like, I wanted to go to arcade, or, like, I wanted to go to, like, some other place or whatever. Like, I don't give a shit about petting zoo, you know? And my parents weren't around a lot, like, weren't around enough for me to care about this shit. Like, I was like, I just wanted more quality time with my parents, just chilling at home, you know, working on projects, just having them around the house, you know. And, like, that was one thing about me that, like, and I'm not complaining about my parents, you know, like, my parents did the best of what they had, right? But it's just like, you know, I never got to see my parents growing up, you know. My dad was always working. And my mom was always working too. Like, and so it's like, I would go to school, and then after school, I'd go to YMCA or, like, the daycare or whatever, like, whatever thing they had after school for the kids that parents were working late. And I would be there, like, 4 to 5 nights out of the week. And then whenever spring vacation or winter vacation happened, I would be, you know, I would be going to fucking, like, I would be having to go to, like, YMCA camp where, you know, like, I'd just be around with all these other kids that their parents didn't want to be around them because they were too hyper or whatever. And then we'd go on these field trips or whatever. But it's just like, kids get burned out quickly on this shit. And if we're not going on a field trip, then we were just stuck in this cafeteria in some school somewhere, and we're just bored and we can't do anything. And it's like, oh, you could do art, you could do, like, there's just nothing. Or, like, we're just stuck being bored. And I hated it. And it's like, so, like, when my mom tried to spend quality time, or my dad tried to spend quality time with me, I'm like, dude, like, I just want to chill with you guys. Can we just chill? Can we, like, just, like, watch a movie together or something? Like, why do we have to make it this big thing? And so, I don't know, for me, it's like, I don't want that with my future family, my future Mrs. X Malcolm, you know, I don't want that kind of shit. But at the same time, it's like, I know that, I know what it's like growing up without, like, a strong male role model, because my parents divorced when I was younger, right? And I barely got to ever see my dad. And it's just like, my mom was one of those parents where if she was dating other guys, I never knew about it, you know? Like, she never she never had that as part of the family dynamic. Like, you know, it's like I've heard some friends, like my buddy Kev in Canada. What's up, Kev? Hey, buddy guy, if you're watching this. And he's like, my mom was constantly dating new guys, and I've seen new like, you know, stepdads and like mom's boyfriends and stuff. And it's like, you know, some parents just don't give a shit and they don't care. But yeah, like I never had that. And in high school, I finally had like some guy who was really helping out our family. And like he taught me how to drive, he taught me how to shave, like, you know, he taught me the importance of tegritas and loyaltas, you know, like he taught me how to, like, you know, he's a Texan. I mean, luckily he's still alive, you know, knock on wood, he keeps being alive for a while, but like he really taught me what it was like to be a man of integrity, you know, like to be this guy who it's like, you know, you stick by your word and like, you know, you treat the people around you good and stuff. And but it's like that guy didn't show up for my early childhood, right? Like my early childhood was just being raised by all these other people that didn't give a shit about me, you know, and didn't care about me. Like they didn't give me any direction. They were like, it's like that scene in Fight Club where it's like, you know, you're my single serving friend, you know, it's like you're my single serving, what do you call it? Like role model or something. And, you know, I was in, like around 6th to 7th grade. No. 6th grade? 7th grade? Yeah, around 6th to 7th grade, I was put in foster care, and for 2 months, and then I got in a fight when we were in foster care. I mean, it was my fault. I threw a toy at my little brother. I threw a frisbee at him, and I said catch, and he didn't fucking hear me, and then he hit him in the head, and he freaked out, and he attacked me, and of course, like I fought back, but like it was more holding him down. But yeah, like the foster parents are like, oh, he's violent. He needs to be put with all the other violent kids. And I'm like, dude, like I don't know. It's one of those things where it's just like if people like, I guess, you know, the foster parents didn't like me and stuff anyway. So it's like if it's an excuse to get rid of you, like they'll just do that, right? And so I had to go live with these kids that like had done fucked up shit. Like one kid had burnt down his house. These other kids were like they had been drug dealers. Like one dude had like fucking like molested his sister and shit. Like these were like really bad dudes, you know, or at least they done bad things and shit, you know. Like they were like teen parents and stuff too. Like one guy had gotten drunk, like he had a drinking problem and he like stole a cop car and shit. Like, you know, some of these dudes are really bad and some of these guys had just done bad things, right? And but like I was like 11 years old or something, and I got put in with these criminals, you know, like, and to be fair, aside from the guy who molested his sister, like everybody else, like like the drugs and the stealing and the assaulting and shit, like those guys were pretty chill. Like, you know, I didn't like that guy. That guy who did it, by the way, his name was Jesse. Fuck that dude, man. Like that guy was such a piece of shit. Fuck him. I still hate that guy. But what was it? It's like, you know, all these other guys, since I was the youngest kid there, I mean, like all these dudes are like 15 and shit, and I'm this 11-year-old there, and all these dudes, like they really looked out for me though. Like they saw me as like a little brother and they took care of me. And so oppositely, like being in that group home was really good because like they taught, you know, in the group home it's kind of like boot camp. There's a lot of strict discipline, and you know, you're held to a standard and you're supposed to keep it. And if you do keep it, you're rewarded and stuff. And so, you know, I learned a lot about what it's like. I don't know. I think it's really good for young boys. I don't know about young girls, right? But like for young boys, being around other young boys and kind of like a regimented thing, like, you know, whether it's like sports or something like that, like that was really good for my development, being around those guys, because even though like these were kids that like the system had thrown away, right? Like they couldn't go to juvie because they'd already been to juvie, but they couldn't go home either. They couldn't either because they didn't have a home, or they couldn't go into foster care, right? But these were guys that it's like, you know, when you got to know them, they weren't bad dudes, you know, like they had just made stupid choices and shit. And so that really changed my outlook on life, you know, and like from that point on. And I've had I don't know, I've had one person come up to me who only knew me from my rants, and he was like, he's like, he was a viewer turned hater, and he was like, you're a piece of shit, like you went to foster care, blah 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 blah, like you did this because blah 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 or what, like he's basically trying to justify his hate for me. And I was like, you barely know me, man. Like, well, like you heard something in a rant, sure, but like there's a whole other giant story to me that you're not hearing. And also, like, did you even listen to the first story? I made a rant a long time ago about my experience in foster care and group homes, and if you go into my rants playlist, you could probably find it. But it's just like it's one of those things where it's like when you're basing your opinion of somebody based on clearly like only the stuff that they've posted online, then you're missing like half the story. It's like one of those things where it's like God, who said it? I saw that Spider-Man guy said it, but he's not the first one to say it. But it's like, if you have a problem with me, call me, and if you don't have my number, that means you're not important enough for me to like you don't know me well enough to fucking to have an opinion about me, And so but I get it, like you're online, you're posting stuff, of course, like you have a like whatever, you're online, right? You're posting shit and people are going to come to conclusions no matter what. But I mean, like after I met Apple Milk, like a YouTuber from a long time ago, like after I met Apple Milk or whatever, like I used to be like that too until I met her, and then I'm like, oh shit, like this chick is super funny, she's super nice, and like wow, I can't believe I judged her based on just some videos I saw of people talking shit about her. Like wow, she is so cool, and like she's a friend for life now. And to be fair, that guy who made that comment about foster care, him and I are cool now. Like, I actually, he's a pretty cool guy. And I meet him sometimes when I'm going to film with other people because he's friends with other people. But I was just saying that it's like, people who have never been through a real struggle, who have never been through, like, real struggles, like, they're the ones that always want to judge, right? Like, they're the ones that always want to judge you harshly. And that's the thing. It's like, I don't like the stuff that I went through as a kid, but at the same time, I can't get angry at it because I'm the guy who I am right now. And like, yeah, sure, I'm an overweight, dude or whatever. And, aside from the overweight thing, I think, I've got most of the bases covered here. But, it's like I'm a better, like, I know I'm not addicted to drugs. I'm not addicted to alcohol. I have really good relationships with my friends. Financially, I'm set up pretty decently at the moment. Most of my bases are covered, right? But it's just like, how can I, since I had a fucked up childhood with a lot of trauma and shit, and like, I don't like wearing a victim badge, right? Because it's like, I know kids whose parents sent them to the hospital because they got beat so bad, like I met other people that had been molested and shit, sold into like human trafficking from their fucking parents and shit. Like I've seen it's like I've met people that were like severely bullied and shit, and it's like I was never severely bullied. I was beaten, but I was never sent to the hospital, and I was never molested. But it's like, you go through, everyone has to go through their shit, right? But when I don't know, man. Like, I think there's different levels of trauma, right? And I feel like, I don't know. I don't believe in karma. I don't believe in cosmic karma or whatever because Joseph Mengele, that piece of shit. I don't believe in karma specifically because of that guy. But I do kind of feel like if there is some kind of karmic wheel, it's like I have a decent second part of my life because my first part was so fucked up. And, when you have the trauma of like constantly moving around a lot as a kid, constantly having to meet new people, having an unreliable fucking parent guardian there to take care of you most of the time while you're growing up, or they're absent or whatever, and I don't know, it's just like it molds you into being this tougher dude, this tougher thing. Like you have to adapt quicker because none of the people around you that are supposed to have your back, that are supposed to be the quote-unquote adults, like they don't have their shit together, so you need to get your shit together very quickly. You got to grow up very quickly. It's like, that person's passed out, so you gotta figure out how to make your own food. You don't have any Fruity Pebbles or anything. It's like, oh, you got some eggs or or you've got some like hamburger meat. Okay, you got to figure out how to cook something, you know, like you got to figure that shit out quickly, because it's like otherwise you're gonna be hungry. It's just stupid shit like that, you know, where it's like I don't know. It's like you gotta adapt, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't mind the person who I became, but I don't want any of my kids to go through what I went through, right? But it's like, at the same time, how do my kids come to this worldly view of like this like ultimate calmness I have for myself without going through what I went through, you know? Like that's the thing. And you know, like you see Brandon Lee, right? Like the guy in the thumbnail. Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee. Bruce Lee grew up as like an actor. He was like what do you call it? Like a movie actor and a theater actor. Like his parents were in a theater, and he got bullied a lot. And one of the reasons why he got bullied is because his mom. I didn't know this until I was like older. That Bruce Lee is actually like a fourth like German or something. Like his mom is half German, and so he kind of got bullied because he's like, you know, mixed blood. And like in Hong Kong, they hate that. I mean, now they love it, but before they were like, they were not very happy about that. And but anyway, yeah, like Bruce Lee got picked on a lot as a kid. He knew that he had to be strong, and so like he got into a lot of street fights, and his parents couldn't fucking discipline him, and he was fighting all the time. And so his parents sent him to be with his teacher, Ip Man, I think was his name, Sifu Ip Man. And they made a whole movie series about him with Donnie Yang and shit. But the whole point is that like Bruce Lee finally had this like male role model who could kick his ass and kind of set him on the straight and narrow. And so like, you know, Bruce Lee, he goes to America, he marries his wife Linda, and they have their first kid, Brandon. And Brandon looks more white than Asian. And but Bruce Lee has this strict you know, he has this strict fucking training regimen, you know. And like if you look at any of Bruce Lee's older notes, like I think there's a lot of his notes in the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, or the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. I don't know how to pronounce that correctly, but you know, like Bruce Lee back in the day, he was doing stuff before everybody else was doing it. Like he was doing intermittent fasting, he was making protein shakes, he was fucking doing like what do you call it, like suicide intervals and shit. Like he was doing a lot of stuff before any of it became mainstream, right? But even though he died pretty early into Brandon's life, like he instilled that feeling of discipline, where it's like, yeah, man, like you gotta, like, don't be afraid of being yourself. Like, you know, don't feel like you have to be like everybody else, and know that like even with your badass DNA that you got from your dad or whatever, it's like you know, it's the discipline, it's the working on yourself constantly. And luckily, Brandon Lee, when his dad died, he still had all these opportunities to be around his dad's students who had basically like instilled and like basically like through osmosis kind of thing. Like they exuded the aura that Bruce Lee had with himself. I mean, obviously it wasn't the same as the real deal, but like they were able to kind of keep on that kind of training, that kind of environment with Brandon as he grew up, as he got older. And that's just beautiful, right? You know, that's good. And I guess that's the thing too. Like like one of my buddies, he's my Swedish buddy. I've known him since I was fucking 18. It's crazy. I've known that guy like it's almost like 20 years later kind of thing, right? Where like he's still he's in Tokyo now. He's married, he's got 2 kids, and I'm the godfather to his daughters. And so if he and his wife died in a car accident or something, I would prefer if the parents, you know, took care of the kids, like or his you know, the grandparents took care of the kids. But it's like, what if the grandparents died too? And then, you know, my friend's like, don't let my kids be in foster care, like figure out a way to adopt them. And I'm like, God damn, dude, like, I'm not even married, man. Like, taking care of 2 kids and, like, but I mean, hopefully he won't die, right? Knock on wood, he doesn't die at all. But I mean, like, that's the role of a godparent, right? The role of a godparent is that you take care of your godchildren if something happens to the parents. And, like, I take that very seriously, you know? But at the same time, like, I know how what is important to my friend, you know, like my friend, my Swedish buddy, like, you know, it's important that they go back to Sweden and visit. It's important that they go outside and they're not just at home studying all the time. It's important that you keep the phones and the iPads away from them so they don't get just jello brains and shit, right? And so, you know, I get it, right? And it's like, you want to instill that, I don't know what you call it, the method, not the method, but it's just like the way of life from the parents. Because I mean, that's the great thing about kids, right? Kids are a remix of you. Like they're basically they're in a way your replacement, right? Like you're kind of training your replacement, and it's not like you need to carry on the family business, son. This ryokan has been in the family for 500 generations, and you must continue it on. And I'm like, yeah, sure, bro, sure. But, you know, it's nothing like that. But at the same time, it's like you want to be a big influence in your kids' lives. And it's like, I don't care if my kids turn out gay or whatever, you know, as long, like, I don't care if my kids don't want to be a president or an astronaut or whatever. But, like, I want to give them the option, the chance to do that if they wanted to do that, you know, like, I want to give them as many options as possible, but I want them to know that, like, I'm there for them, you know, like, they can, like, you know, if they're other, like, you know, if somebody's talking shit about them at school, then I'm gonna go to the school and I'm gonna fucking confront that person. Yeah, by the way, since I'm talking about that, one of my favorite clips on the internet from this whole time was there was this guy, I mean, he's still around, his name's M13, I think he deleted the video or he re-uploaded it. But there's this guy, he's Canadian, his name's M13, and he was, he's a father, right? Like I think he's married to a Filipino woman now, and he's got a second kid. But before, you know, he's just like this English teacher who made a YouTube channel where he's on the motorcycle and he's talking most of the time, right? And there's one video where his kid was being bullied by this one kid. And, you know, like, he doesn't want to jump to conclusions. He doesn't want to freak out or whatever, right? And so, like, he talks to the school and he asks them to deal with it. And, like, you know, and they're like, okay, we'll deal with it. And then, like, you know, a couple months later, and it's like, dude, like, you know, I've asked you multiple times, have you dealt with it? No. And so he's just like, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck your stupid fucking rules. And so he goes into the school with his camera. And he goes directly into the class, and he says to his son, which kid is it? Who fucking said it? And he's like saying this all in fluent Chinese and shit. And this kid points to the kid, and meanwhile the dad is like, M13's just calling all of these people retarded. He's like, you know, like, he's like, man, you must be a fucking dumbass. And he's like talking to the teacher. He's like, what a fucking dumbass. And like the principal's there or something, like some other teachers. And he's like, God, you must be a dumbass because you keep teaching this kid to be a fucking dumbass. And he's like, because dumb people, all they want to do is hurt other people, so you must be fucking dumb. And he's laying it on thick, right? And he's like, fucking, he's calling them out, you know, because the school wasn't doing anything about it, right? And so one of the things is just like, you know, like he says to, but anyway, he calls out the kid and he shames him, right? And then the kid is just like, but then instead of just shaming him, be like, fuck you, and slapping the kid or whatever, he's like, dude, he's like, do you like that? Do you like what I was doing right now? And the kid's like, no. And he's like, see? He's like, that's how my kid feels, you know? Do you like making other people feel like that? And he's like, nah. And he's like, yeah, dude. Like, he's like, look, like, you know, when you say shit that's mean about other people, you make them feel bad, and like, you don't want to feel bad, right? No. So like, why do you want to make other people feel bad, you know? And it's like, my son doesn't do anything, he hasn't said anything to you, he's a nice kid, you know? And so I don't know, it's just like but I love that video because it's like he calls them out, and he gets them to the emotional peak of just like emotional awareness of like, oh my god, shit's going on. But then he turns it into a good thing, right? Where he's just like, look, you know, and like, you know, it's like, I learned something today kind of thing. And it's good. It ends on like look, like, you know, like he call, you know, the teachers learned that it's like, if you don't deal with this, there's gonna be more parents like me who come in and fucking call you out on this shit. And, you know, for the bullied kid and all the other kids that watch that, it's like, oh shit, if we bully somebody, their parent might come in here and they might fuck us up. Like, okay. And so it's like he didn't follow the rules or whatever. And I bet there's some people that are watching this that maybe don't like me. If they made it all the way into this, thank you for watching so much despite not liking me. But it's like, yeah, some people will be like, well, he should have gone through the proper channels or just taking his kid out of the school. And it's like, dude, look, like, you know, you want the result, right? You want the fucking end result. So what are you gonna do, right? Like, you know, like, sure, he could have done it a different way, but he got the results that he wanted. And sometimes to get the results that you want, you have to do, like, you know, you have to do things the unconventional way sometime, right? And so, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that, but, like, you want to be that kind of parent for your kid where you're like, I don't care if I get in trouble for helping my kid out kind of thing, you know? You want to be that kind of guy, and I like that. I think that was cool. So, yeah, man, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, like, I guess that's a question for any of you that are here, that are still watching. Like, you know, if you have kids, how much are you in their lives, you know? And then for people who don't have kids, like, how much were your parents in your life? And, like, do you wish they were there more, or maybe they were there too much? I don't know. It could be one or the other. Let me know. But it's just like, you know, you see all this stuff in America happening, and like with certain people of certain creeds, and then the comments of those videos are always like, this is very fatherless behavior, you know? And it's like the dad, you know, the dad is he's the family unit, but at the same time, it's like, if the dad is not a strong dude or a respectable dude, like, maybe at the time they might not respect him, and maybe they'll respect him later, but it's like, you gotta be this, you gotta be the shining, like, you know, nobody's perfect, right? But you gotta be that guy who, at least in front of the kids, has his shit together. That's like, don't worry, like, we'll figure it out. Like, I remember watching the documentary on Iceberg Slim, the guy who wrote the book Pimp, which, by the way, you guys should read. It's very, very short read. You could read it in one day. Iceberg Slim is this book about this guy who was a pimp, and he talks about all, like, you know, the stories of being a pimp and shit. And in the document, anyway, they made a documentary about him. And in the documentary, like, they're interviewing his kids, and they kind of grew up with him being around all these women and shit. And one of his daughters got caught with like a shit ton of cocaine and everything, and like, she's freaking out, the mom's freaking out, her friends are freaking out. But she calls her dad, and he's just cool, and he's like, tell me the situation. You know, like, he's not freaking out. He's not letting anybody else dictate his behavior. He's like, I don't know what's going on, but we'll figure it out, you know? And, like, his daughter's like, I was so rest assured. I mean, like, you know, I mean, like, what got her to the point where she was trying to traffic drugs? But, you know, aside from that, it's like, she knew that, like, maybe her dad was out of her life, or maybe he was, I don't know. But it's like, the fact that she's like, I can call my dad and he'll help kind of like recenter me, and like be that oak tree that I can cling on to into the storm. You know, it's cool, you know, and like, it makes me think, like, you know, what's that quote? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is right now. And so it makes me think, it's like, I don't want to be this overweight dude that doesn't play with his kids, you know? I don't want to be this guy who's like, just sits down on the park. Okay. Oh, man. I just realized now that, like, my microphone, whenever I move my USB fucking cable, it always fucking, like, it resets the microphone settings. And so I realized that most of the time I've been talking this whole time, it's been peak, like, my voice has been peaking. So I gotta fuck with the audio later after this. Stupid fucking, I don't know. I mean, is this a USB problem, or is it because I had the same issue with my desktop. It has to be probably the microphone or something. I don't know. But the whole point is like, I want to give my kids the kind of confidence that allows them to go after whatever they want to get, you know? The fucking Mario with the twerking. And so it's just like, you know, but in order to do that, like, how are you going to do that, right? It's like, are you going to, and like, one of the things is like, I haven't done martial arts for a long time. probably like 10 plus years now. And it's like, but part of me wants to be like, I want to be a black belt by the time my kids are big enough to take karate, so I can start getting them into martial arts, because I think martial arts is good. It teaches discipline. It teaches, I mean, like at the same time, like if you start one martial art, it's easier to start other martial arts too. And it's like you want to teach that dynamic, right? Like you want to have your kids do music, so that way they learn how to think rhythmically, but also in a group, and then also you want to have them play a sport or something, so that way they know the value of like teamwork and having to be relied on and having to be part of like a bigger thing or whatever, right? Like that's the thing that kind of sucks about Japanese clubs, is that they kind of teach that, but Japanese clubs, they have a tournament at the end of the year. At least if you're on a sports team, you have to try out for it, and they have like matches throughout the whole year. So I don't know, the clubs are basically just fucking bullshit here, but it's good exercise and they get to be with their friends, so whatever, it's fine. But yeah, you know, it's just it's one of those things where it's like you got to lay the groundwork. And so like part of me is like, oh man, like, you know, as soon as I find out the future Mrs. X Malcolm is pregnant, I gotta enroll in those karate classes and start working towards my black belt. I wonder how fast you can get a black belt in karate, because like basically the only like the way that you progress in karate, and I know I'm saying karate instead of karate, but whatever, dude. I don't know. I don't need to like have the right pronunciation here. It don't matter. Not as it matters, but it's just, yeah, to go up in karate, you need to do you have to fight people, like to get a black belt, to get like the extra ichidan, nidan, and black belt, you have to like, god, my teacher was like a third dan or something, and he had to fight like 10 dudes in a row, and like his stamina must have been just fucking crazy, man. I saw the video of it. It's fucking nuts. But like, you know, you have to learn all the kata, all these different kata, to learn how to fucking like, you know, move appropriately and shit, even though you don't use half of those moves in fighting either way. But I don't know, just to say, like, just to kind of get them into a thing, and then we can move on to other stuff too, like, I don't know, Krav Maga or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or some shit, right? And so but the whole point is just like, you want your kid to be as well prepared for the world as possible, right? And I think I don't know, I love the idea of like Braveheart, you know, like William Wallace, where like his parents die and then his uncle is like a traveling merchant, and he takes him all around Europe to basically like he learns all these languages and shit because of that. Even though he's Scottish, he's become a man of the world, you know, and he's met all these different people and shit, and I don't know, it's cool. It's cool. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just like, it's one of those things where it's like, I know that I wasn't raised atypically. I don't think a lot of us were either, but it's just like, how can you give what you wanted for yourself to your kids? Like, I traveled a lot in the U.S., but I would have loved to travel abroad and like learn all these different languages and shit, and just, I don't know, like see parts of the world, you know? So then when you do choose to settle down, you're like, okay, I appreciate all the good, and I don't get so angry about the bad. Like, it always, I don't know, that's a talk for another time, but it's always just so funny seeing these expats who obviously come from like white picket fence, like, you know, gated communities in the US, and they're mostly white women, and they're like, Japan's so dangerous, I can't walk home alone. And I'm like, where the fuck are you walking? Like, what are you dressed like, you know? Like, goddamn, like, you know, have you been to the US? Like, have you been to the world, you know? It's like, I don't feel comfortable. Okay, well, try walking around India by yourself or something, you know? Like, try walking around Pakistan or fucking I don't know, the Abu Dhabi or something. Like, come on, dude. Like, Japan is so, like, I saw this video the other day, and it's like Shinjuku's turned into a slum, and it's just showing all these people drinking outside in Shinjuku, and it's like, who gives a shit? Like, they're like, I hate Shinjuku, and I'm like, good, don't come here, you little bitch. Like, Shinjuku's great because it's not like everywhere else. It's doing its own thing. Like, you know, if you don't like what's going on here, then go somewhere else. It's easy. I love the debauchery. I love the chilling and stuff here, you know? But anyway, that's a talk for another time in another place. Yeah, I'm happy I was able to kind of spiel with you guys about this. This is stuff that was just on my mind, and goddamn third time recording it. Hopefully third time's a charm. And yeah, I appreciate you guys sticking around for all of this. How many of you are still here? Say hi in the chat. And yeah, you know, it's time to chill, fucking time to relax. And yeah, we're gonna do a live stream after this, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, like always, guys, thank you so much for all the love and support. I hope you're all doing great. And yeah, I'll talk to you when I talk to you. Thanks for smashing the like button. And secret comment of the day is Polaroid cameras kick ass. Actually, that Polaroid, I put expired film in there, and it was too expired, and it just it got fucked up now. It sucks. But anyway, yeah, guys, I hope you're doing good, and I will talk to you later. Yep, stay black, sons. Stay black.